We're going to present today 7 golden habits high-performing sales management still follow. Thanks again, and let me introduce you to the panel. We have Flyn with us today. Flyn, he's been inside sales management and leadership development all over his life. He is with Pinoyer Communications. He's also, writing a book about sales recently. Thanks, Flyn. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, great. We also have Clinton Rosario, Chief Product Architect and Software Product Manager at eGrabber. He's been working with eGrabber for quite a long time. He's had about 50,000 people use the products that eGrabber's designed. Clinton, welcome aboard as well.
Thank you, Rich. Nice to be here.
The voice that you hear, that's me, Rich Kumar. I've been working with more than 5,000 customers and speaking with them, and it's been a privilege to talk to them, and it's really nice to have a journey with eGrabber. And it's a pleasure to moderate your webinar for today. Okay, now please follow us on Twitter. You could tweet your questions or comments. Use the hashtag eGrabberWebinar. You can also reach out to Flyn Pinoyer at @FlynPinoyer.com on Twitter. For Clinton, use @Clinton Rosario. And we can also monitor the questions live. So if you do have any questions live for us, please go ahead and tweet your questions as well. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to switch over to Flyn. Flyn, the floor is all yours. Take it away, please.
All right, thank you very much. Glad everybody could come. I'm going to hopefully share some good information with you. Before I do that, just a little housekeeping stuff for you. First of all, please stay to the end of the session because I've worked up a couple of gifts to give you for coming to the seminar and taking your time to listen to us. And secondly, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end of the seminar rather than trying to handle them as we go, which becomes a little more complicated when you don't have a live event, but a web event like this one. Additionally, I will stay and answer questions if you have any. Happy to chat with you about sales or running groups or whatever it might be. And just hang in there and we'll do that in the Q&A. Next slide. Okay, so the first of my 7 points here is you must motivate your salespeople. If you want to have a team that runs at very high levels of performance, the only way you're ever going to do that is if you have people who are motivated. They're the only kinds of people that are going to achieve high levels of performance on any consistent basis. The other neat thing about getting people motivated is that people require less supervision when they're motivated, and that leaves you more time to empower them to succeed, which is probably the most profitable thing a manager can do. And motivated salespeople are more likely to stay with the company, so it's also a benefit to the organization. You get people motivated and excited about what they're doing, and they don't leave and you don't have to replace them. And finally, a motivated salesperson will actually do a lot more than all the sticks and carrots you can dream up will ever produce. That's just a fact. The second thing you need to do is you must give salespeople a sales process that works when it's used. And the idea behind this is basically what you want to do is you don't want them to have to depend completely on their skills. You want their success partially based on your system. If your system guarantees success, you're going to be a lot further along and they can add their own skill and increase performance in that way. If a salesperson actually knew how to create a powerful and compelling sales process, they'd probably already be a manager. So you don't really want to sit there and pray that your salespeople are going to come up with the most compelling way to say things, the most powerful approaches, and how to sell your product or service. This just simply doesn't work. Even experienced salespeople typically there's lots of opportunities to improve what they're doing, and the only way you're going to do that is if you give them a documented, if you give them a sales process that works. The key thing here is when salespeople fly by the seat of their pants, it's impossible to figure out what works and doesn't work. This is one of the biggest challenges a sales organization has, is figuring out, hey, how can we improve sales? What is it we're not doing? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And the only way you can get that the only way you can get to that is having a consistent message that's able to be tuned and tested, sort of the way that people test display advertisements. They'll run the ad, and it's pulling great and everything, and then what they'll do is they'll pick a different headline, they'll put that headline in, they'll run the ad in another marketplace, a test, and see if it pulls better than the original ad. And then they actually know which one works better. And that's the only way that you can tell what works better. And so when salespeople fly by the seat of their pants, you don't have any way to tell that because the message is inconsistent. You don't know what it was they said that worked or what it was they said that goofed it up or whatever. Next, you must thoroughly document your sales process. Without detailed documentation, the best-selling practices and the most compelling words, your sales process will descend into chaos. You'll just have people, again, flying by the seat of their pants. You really need to give them a very clear and concise document that shows them what the steps are, what the key questions are, maybe even some of the wording for some of the explanations or answers to questions. The best practices, the most compelling stories just simply don't get captured or used if you don't have it in a document. And many companies have kind of like an informal sales process, but they never really put together a detailed process. And I'll give you an example of just how powerful the process can be. Years ago, I went to work for a software company as a consultant. Basically, my job was just to work on the sales performance, and that was my only duty. And when I got there, I discovered, they had some weaknesses and things they need to improve. I also discovered that they didn't have a very compelling story to tell. And so they were having a lot of trouble selling the software. And so basically what I did is I redid that sales process, reconstructed it, and I put together something that I knew would basically work, not dependent so much on the skills of the people who were there, but just if they would use the process, they would get a better result than they're getting now, because what they were doing now just wasn't very effective. And so what happened is, first of all, they were a little leery about using it because they were having trouble selling even 1 or 2 boxes at a time. And the process was designed to sell 5, 10, 15 boxes at a time to the resellers. And they just hadn't been doing this, so they were very, very skeptical and leery of the process. What happened is at first no one really used it, and one of the reps, not the best rep in the group, but one of the reps in the group who's a really good communicator. I mean, he's a fun guy to talk to. He's a good old boy from the South, and he can talk to anybody, get him engaged in a conversation. He came up to me in the morning and he says, hey Flynn, nobody's really using this presentation yet, and I just wonder if this is going to work. And so I told him, his name was Brett. I said, hey Brett, let's do a little experiment. I said, I want you to forget about any expectation of selling anything today, okay? And just completely forget about any expectation. If you don't sell anything, it's just fine. We'll just try a little experiment here. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to go back in your cube, and I want you to go through this sales process and make sure you understand everything. And if you have any questions, come and get me before you start. And then I just want you to use it on faith. Just give it a shot for the day and see what happens at the end of the day. And so he actually did that. He went back to his cube, he went over the presentation, and he started making calls. Well, what happened at the end of the day, he'd sold about 2.5 weeks worth of sales for the average rep in that group. He just blew the doors off everybody else's sales numbers compared to what anybody else had ever sold in one day. I think he sold 2 or 3 times what anybody had ever sold in a day. And it was pretty amazing. And the next day, of course, the whole group's using the presentation because now they had a lot of faith in the story and the message and that it would work. And that's the kind of power you can have if you develop a compelling presentation and you give the people the documentation and training that they need to actually execute that process. So the other thing is you can't test it unless you have that. So next. Uh, you must run regular and consistent training and coaching on the sales process. If you don't do this, you're not going to get the kind of results you need. People learn by repetition, and the way they get the repetition of the sales process is through regular coaching that catches and corrects deviations. So, the people try the process, you listen to the calls, you hear where they deviate, where they make mistakes, you point it out, you show them how to do it correctly, and you repeat that process over and over again. If you don't involve the salespeople in the sales process through the training each week, you're going to quickly discover that much of what was designed, again, it just goes away. People stop using it. It takes, I guess the experts estimate it takes about 30 days to create a habit. And if you don't work with the salespeople over a regular period of time and consistently, you're not going to get them to make the presentation that you've put together a habit. You're not going to get them to use it on a regular basis. It's not going to be their normal way of doing things. And even after they get it to sort of a habit, you'll find that they drop certain things out and they forget to do things and they shortcut things, and that if you don't treat them like an athlete or other professional where they always have regular coaching, and it's the only way that these people perform at the highest levels. And it's true of your group as well. If you don't coach and work with them on a regular basis, they will not perform at the top levels they're capable of. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in sports. It doesn't work that way in chess. It doesn't work that way anywhere. You gotta give them regular help. Okay, the other thing is you must regularly work on making them productive and efficient. This is one of the biggest opportunities managers have to get increases in results. Thomas Edison said, I love this quote, if we did all the things we're capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. And if you've ever taken on a personal project to make yourself more productive and made a really tight schedule and stuck to the schedule and all that, and done that for any period of time, you just won't believe what it is you can get done if you get yourself efficient. So one of the things you want to do with an inside group or even a field sales group is look at the workflow, look at ways to make them more efficient and more effective at what they're doing. Typically, there's a lot of things that can be improved. Examine the non-selling tasks and attempt to eliminate or reduce them so that you can increase the selling time. I worked at Logitech years and years ago in the mid '80s as the manager of the inside retail group. And one of the first things I did was I went around and I looked for all the silly things that people were doing that weren't selling and tried to figure out how to eliminate as many as I could. The other thing I did is I using some time management things and some workflow things, I figured out how to make them more efficient so they could get more done in the day. And just that alone probably gave us a 20% increase in the results they were getting out of their efforts. So it's really an effective way to get a lot out of a group without really teaching them anything about selling. Look at and implement time management practices. Most people don't know anything about time management, and it can be really helpful. Finally, well, we got two more here. Number 6, teach your salespeople cold calling and marketing. Most salespeople don't really know how to make cold calls, and most management assumes that they do. The cold call is a really challenging thing to do well, and unless you really teach people specifically how to make the cold call, and part of that is to give them the words and the methodology for doing it, you're going to find that people don't like to cold call, don't cold call enough, and don't bring in enough new business. So as part of your process, you want to develop a cold call method that works. And if you have to get on the phone yourself and figure out what works and how to do it, that's what you want to do. And then train your folks how to do it. Teach your salespeople with marketing. Most salespeople write terrible emails and solicitations, and most companies do not have compelling and unique selling propositions. And if you're on LinkedIn, you know this because if you connect up with anybody, you're almost surely going to get some sort of a sales message back. Most people, when they connect with you on LinkedIn, will send you basically a low-level solicitation, and most of them are terrible. So what you really want to do is you want to help your salespeople come up with compelling messages. I think the emails and the voicemails and stuff should almost be copywritten by somebody who knows how to write compelling copy, so that those things are more effective, and that'll make a huge difference. And then the final one is social media. You really need to teach people how to leverage the social media in the right way. And there's probably a right way for each company. It's probably a little bit specific. But even though social media isn't the answer to every situation, it does offer some unique engagement methods that can be helpful. On LinkedIn, for example, if you know what you're doing, you can get in some very interesting conversations with people generated completely by LinkedIn's structure and everything, and it completely eliminates any kind of a cold call, but it gets you in the same kind of a conversation. And salespeople also need to understand networking because it's a critical part of social media. LinkedIn, again, most people on LinkedIn connect with somebody and then immediately send them some sort of solicitation or invitation to talk about the business or offer them information about their business. This is not as effective as developing a networking relationship first and building something that sort of gives you a little extra edge on your first contact, because the person sort of knows you, because maybe you've done them a favor, or maybe they have some more familiarity with you. And of course, for most B2B products, LinkedIn is an invaluable tool for engaging prospects. There's so many people out there, but most salespeople simply don't know how to use anything to leverage the LinkedIn. They simply use the data, and they don't really get down to leveraging the actual process. And they also waste a lot of time and do a lot of things they shouldn't do in the process. So you really need to teach them how you do it. It's almost a methodology like your cold call or your sales process. You almost need to have a laid out plan. This is the way you want to engage people on LinkedIn. Here's what you do first, here's what you do second, basically give them an outline of what to do and show them how to do it so they're not fumbling around trying to figure it out, because they can waste a ton of time if they don't know what they're doing. And if you do those 7 things, the chances are you'll have a group that operates at a lot higher level of performance than the way the group operates before you implement these things. It can make a huge difference to your group's results and individual results, and when you do that, you make a huge impact on morale, and that has a compounding effect as well. So these are the things I recommend if you want to have a really high-performing group. Do these things and help your folks out, empower them to succeed. Okay, so here's the things I thought I would offer you. The first one is an article. It's called "How to Increase the Results of Your Inside Sales Team." Basically, it contains 30 things I found over the last 40 years that increase performance. It's just an article. There's no opt-in. There's no there's not even any site menus. It's just on one page with the content. So it's just pure information for you to check out. And the second one, and I've never done this at an eGrabber seminar before, but I thought I would try it, is I'm offering anybody that comes to the seminar a chance to spend 15-20 minutes with me with no risk or obligation to ask any questions or talk about your sales effort and get some advice from me. And the other thing we can discuss is I have a lot of no-risk options that don't require any commitment, that can get you started, get you some immediate results, and allow you to evaluate what you might want to do next. And so both of those are available at a page I created. All my contact information is there, and the description of the two things is there. And that page is penoyer.com/egrabber. Really easy address, and you'll find the link to the article, and you'll find my contact info if you want to talk to me about sales. And like I said, I'm happy to spend 15 or 20 minutes with you and just answer any questions I can about selling or running a group. All right, I think Rich is going to take over here, or Clinton.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much, Flynn. That was some great tips and stuff. I personally enjoyed a few, and I know we've been practicing a few, ourselves, especially with regards to how to create those email templates and send those messages. That's something that's been proven, and we follow that at our company as well. So yeah. Some of those information are really good. Thanks for sharing that. And let me quickly take this opportunity and tell people that if you do have any questions for Flynn, please go ahead and take time to put it in your questions box. And Flynn will be taking questions a little later once Clinton is done with his presentation. And let me quickly make Clinton the presenter and give controls. Clinton, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Rich. So for the attendees of this webinar, here's another giveaway, a quick giveaway from eGrabber side. It's a quick giveaway for everybody who's using LinkedIn to prospect. And if you're using LinkedIn to prospect, typically you're at this situation. You have your LinkedIn has some very powerful searches that you can use. You can find your prospects over there. And typically what you do is you'd hit the connect button and wait for your prospect to return back to you, to reply to you, to accept your invitation. But then if you're the go-getter sales guy or the sales lady, you're not going to wait for their invitation. You're going to actually try to email them or phone them and try to get that appointment and try to take things forward. But see, the problem is with LinkedIn, you do not get the email address and the phone number unless they accept your connection first. So a chicken and egg situation, which one happens first? So what we did at eGrabber, being a software company, okay, and we listened to a lot of salespeople, and they all had the same problem. I have a LinkedIn contact. I need email address and phone number. Can you do something for me? Okay. So what we did was we created a button. Okay, we're a software company, so we can create buttons and software very easily, and what that does is it gives you an email address and a phone number of this person. That's simple. So you go to a LinkedIn profile like this, you press a button, and you get a business card, which you can use an email address and a phone number that you can contact that person on. Okay. And the nice thing about this software which we created called the Account Researcher, you can get not only your prospects' email addresses, but also the email addresses of a few of their colleagues. So if you're a fan of the circle of leverage method of prospecting, or if you like to prospect multiple points in the company, that can be highly useful. Okay. So a very frequent question people ask is, where do you get the email addresses from? Do you have a database? No, we don't have a database because databases get old. They get outdated very quickly. I made a database in Feb this year, about 200 contacts. I tried using it. I tried using it in August. Okay, that's a few months away, and I found 40% of those people had left companies. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you'll be having similar problems when it comes to data freshness. So we don't keep databases, but what in fact the Account Researcher software does is it goes to the internet, searches all the places on the internet, and it finds places where people actually leave their contact information. Hey, face it, there are salespeople who say, contact me at this number if you'd like to know more about this discussion or the slide share. And if the salesperson is not leaving their contact information, perhaps the recruiter is leaving their contact information, to get resumes. So what software does, it looks at all the colleagues in the company, sees what kind of email pattern they use, and says, you should contact this prospect at this email address. Okay, so that's what the software does. And how good is it? Well, if there's an email address out there, there's a 95% chance that we're going to get it. Guess what? We put a patent around this process, so you know it works. Okay, so that's the software. Take a LinkedIn profile, press a button, get a business card, which, by the way, you can transfer to any of your CRMs. And the next thing is, so what is the giveaway? What are we giving away in this program? So because you came for this webinar, typically the account researcher is a software. It's a yearly software, okay? And if you're paying for LinkedIn Premium, okay, and if you're trying to contact people on emails, it typically costs you about $899 a year. With the account researcher, you can send about typically unlimited number of emails. But for this webinar, we're not giving it at the $895, but we're giving at $595. So the offer that we're giving away is a $300 off that you can save on this email address finding tool. Does it work on your LinkedIn? Not really. You can, if you have a name in a company anywhere, something that you find on a blog, you can put that into the tool too. But a lot of people use it on LinkedIn. So in case you like the tool, in case you'd like to give it a shot, maybe have a personalized demo, you can reach out to Rich, and that's his address over there, rich@egrabber.com. And he'll be happy to organize a personalized demo for you. And then you can, if you act before Monday, and if you want to buy before Monday, then this offer will be available to you. This $300 off will be available to you. Okay, so that's Rich's number. That's all for me. Okay, and Flynn, you had a book which is coming out very soon. You wanted to tell people about that?
Well, it's I don't know how soon it's going to be out, but I recently signed a contract with Motivational Press to write a book on sales. It's going to be called The Sales Pros Bible, and hopefully it'll be released later in the year or the beginning of next year. And if you're interested in the book, I'm going to be doing a huge launch, giving away a bunch of stuff. There'll be some specials for people who purchase during the launch and all that. If you're interested in that, you can go to the book's website, which is basically the name. So it's The Sales Pros Bible .com, and you can go there. You can sign up on the list if you want, and you'll get the information on what's going on with the book, and you can get some great stuff if you participate in the launch. I'm also one other thing. I'm also looking for experts who want to contribute value content as a bonus to people who buy the book during the launch. So if you happen to be somebody who has something of value you could give away, which acts as a promotional item for you as well. Depending on what it is, I might be willing to put that in the launch and give it away to all the people who purchase during the launch. Thanks for letting me do that, Rich.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, Flynn, there's a quick question for you. This question is from Trevor. Trevor asks, how do I teach my salespeople about all the competitors I have? Now, if I give them too much data, they get overloaded and absorb nothing.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the middle part. All the what? All the what?
Yeah, how do I teach my salespeople all about the competitors I have? If I give them too much data, they get overloaded and absorb nothing.
Did you say competitors?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one of those good examples of why you want to document your sales process really well. Obviously you can't you can't teach them all that stuff in one day. You have tons and tons of competitors. You can't even really teach people everything there is to know about the sales process in one day. It just there's too many variables in the sales process to do that. But what happens is if you document over time the sales process, as you come upon these things in your efforts, you can document how you answer that specific competitor. So what I would do if I were you, Trevor, is I would take the top 5 or 10 competitors. You're probably going to run into these people, 90% of the time, right? And I would detail out the presentation you want to make when somebody says, well, I've been looking at these guys, or I've been using these guys, or I've been thinking about these guys, I would figure out how you're going to answer that, what you want to say, and then I would put that documentation together and put that into your sales process document. And that way, when the salesperson gets that, they can flip to the back of the binder. They can go to the competitor section of the sales process. They can find the information on that competitor and literally tell the person the story that you've created to handle that particular competitor. You might have a generic message that you start with in talking about competitors. One that would give people time to go find the name in the list, but that should be really quick anyway. And then you have more of a specific story to talk about a very specific competitor. Usually people like another company for a specific reason, and if you can find out what that specific reason is, then you can do something to show that you guys also do this, and plus people who care about that typically care about these other things, and whatever that message is. It's a little bit more complicated than what I can explain in this format. But if you wanted to chat with me about it, I'd be happy to chat with you and give you some ideas on how to do it. But basically, what you want to do is document them, and document each one. And then you want to have, that's the advantage of the document. They don't have to memorize it, right? They don't have to know it off the top of their head. They can simply flip to it in the sales process binder if the presentation is well documented. So that's a part of it. And I'd be happy to talk to you more about that if you want to give me a call or set up a time to chat.
Yeah, sure. So documentation, yes, definitely works. Now, as a matter of practice, I do many documentations, that I can pass on to other people as well, who I train, who I talk to. So, yeah, any form of documentation does work. Here's another question from Kyle for you, Flynn. Okay, Kyle asks, do you have any templates or framework for the documentation?
Yeah, I have a methodology I use for documenting the sales process, and it's something that I can show somebody how to do. I also actually have a much more complete solution to this whole issue, in that I have what I call an inside sales training system that I help companies implement. And what the system basically does is it gives you the structure for doing training, it gives you the methods for doing the training, and it gives you all the documentation processes for creating the training documents, creating the sales process document, and for documenting your sales process. So it's actually a very complete system that's designed to do the things that I talked about in those seven things that I brought up. But mostly it's focused on the sales process and the sales skills, and coaching and training your folks, and tuning and managing your sales process. But it's all a very complete thing. But I can also show you, if you don't want to go to that extent, I also have available information on how to actually document a sales process and put a sales process binder together, and that's something I could help you do. So just give me a call.
Sure, perfect. Now, here's a follow-up question from Kyle. Now, Kyle again asks, does this document that you're talking about, does it include LinkedIn training as well?
Okay, so which document is he referring to?
He's referring to the template or the framework documentation that you've been talking about just now.
Oh, okay. So the documentation really doesn't have much to do with LinkedIn that I've been talking about. The documentation is a method for training, coaching, and managing and documenting the sales process. So it really focuses on how you teach your reps. One of the subjects you might teach the reps is about how to use LinkedIn. But I also have a tremendous amount of material on LinkedIn, and if you'd like to contact me, there's some stuff that I give away that you could have that would help you with LinkedIn. I can also, do specific trainings on LinkedIn if anybody would want that done. So I can cover that for you as well, but they're really two separate things. The presentation I gave here, the point I was trying to make is don't have your folks stumbling around, fumbling around in the social media without a method, without a specific method that's clearly defined and tested to be effective, or they'll end up wasting a lot of their time doing stuff on LinkedIn or wherever that's not productive for them, and it'll take away from their selling time and their results. It won't help them that much.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so here's another question for you, Flynn, again. This is from Dan. Dan asks, cold calling versus LinkedIn discussion in groups, which do you think works better?
They both work, and it's not a matter of better, it's a matter of opportunity and method. What I would say is, maybe I should give an example here. On LinkedIn, you can get into discussions in a very different way often. Now, my products and services might be more LinkedIn friendly as far as finding opportunities, but I suspect this happens everywhere. I have run into situations on LinkedIn in a discussion where a VP of sales or a sales manager would ask a question about how to do something relative to making his group perform better or whatever, training question or whatever it might be. And what happens is if you understand how to approach the question properly, you can get yourself an opportunity to have a side discussion with the fella offline about the question. And this is something I teach in my LinkedIn stuff, of course. And that's a very non-threatening way to get in a conversation about your products. And to give you an idea of how well it works, let me just give you one little example here. I was on LinkedIn, and there was a VP that had posted something, and I answered the question, and then I took this little sidebar thing of engaging him in a side conversation. And I ended up chatting with him about an opportunity to help his sales organization. Now, it didn't happen to come to fruition. I didn't get the business or anything. But the interesting thing about it was that there were at least 20 other sales consultants in that discussion. And I asked him after we concluded our conversation, I said, I'm just curious, did anybody else from this discussion contact you and try and help you out? And he said no one did. And my belief there is that most people don't know how to engage people on LinkedIn other than to send them a solicitation email or an in-mail, which is basically the same thing. They don't understand how to leverage the networking and the other things that one would use to get to somebody on LinkedIn. Now, cold calling is a totally different ball of wax. LinkedIn basically gives you an opportunity, two opportunities. The first is to get in a conversation the way I did without the cold call. So it's a lot friendlier. There's a lot less of a cloud over the conversation. There's a lot less pressure on you and the prospect in the conversation. And the second way LinkedIn offers you the opportunity is obviously if you have a product like eGrabber or Associate Researcher, you can go in, you can get the prospects contact information, and then you can just do the cold calling thing. But cold calling, like I said, very few people have any clue how to really do it very well. Most of the stuff that's taught is not that good, and most of the time it's taught, it's not done in a way that's really effective because it's not, the presentations aren't documented. It's all, again, fly by the seat of your pants type stuff, and it makes it very difficult. So I guess that's what I'd say. And again, if if you're interested, Dan, I'm happy to spend some time with you and talk with you for a couple minutes and answer the question in more detail and fill in, you know, whatever other questions you have. And of course, you can post another question here if you want. So don't hesitate to contact me. This is the first time I've ever offered a free consultation on eGrabber seminar, so you guys might as well grab it. I may never do it again. I don't know. Let's see how it works.
Sure. Okay. I don't think we have any more questions for you at this point of time. So folks, if you do need any assistance from eGrabber about this tool, the account researcher tool, if you need a demo, if you have some questions, please feel free to contact me. There's my contact information flashing on your screen again, Rich Kumar, and you can reach me at rich@egrabber.com. That's email, and you can also call me at the phone number that you see there on your screen. Okay.
Richard, if I might just jump in real quick here. Obviously, I have a prejudice for eGrabber. We've been working together for ages, but I can tell you with regard to the associate researcher product, also the eGrabber product, but because I'm a small organization, the list building thing is not as big a deal for me. I can tell you that I use this thing and it's absolutely invaluable and time-saving to a huge extent for finding contact information for somebody that you want to get a hold of on as a prospect. So I highly recommend it. I use it personally and I love it. I use it all the time when I'm trying to do marketing and cold calling and that kind of stuff. So just know that they're telling the truth. It's really a cool product.
Nice of you to say that, Flynn. I appreciate that. And yes, if you do have any questions, any comments about the webinar, please feel free to contact me as well. I'd appreciate it. I'd love to hear from you on how the webinar went and what do you think about it. So please do send me a quick email or call me. I'd appreciate that. That's all we have for you today, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was useful and informative, and we look forward to having you participate on our other future webinars as well. Thank you, Flynn. Thank you, Clinton, for taking the time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And don't hesitate to contact me if you want more details. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.